Hey there. So this time what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna redo a video that I did before. It's a screen replacement on a Macbook Air 13-inch. This is a 1466 model, but it's the same for 1369. It's the same for all Macbook Airs from 2010 to today. Whichever one came, they have the same screen, and the procedure of replacing that screen is exactly the same. So you can see it's cracked. The reason why I'm redoing this video is because the sound, it was a little weaker, and the light was pretty bad on the original one. Let me just lift the camera a little bit more so you see the screen better. And what I'm going to do, okay, so I'm going to do pretty much the same thing that I did on my other videos, just a little faster. So we're going to remove this screen, put a new one in there. First we're going to do the bezel. Like I said in the previous video, it's a very hard repair, very hard to do. And if you haven't done something like this before, and this is the first time you're watching, you haven't seen my previous one, don't attempt this repair. Okay, first of all, what we're going to do, we're going to remove the bezel. What I do, I use some alcohol and this very thin painting knife to slide in under it and remove it. You might need to heat it up a little bit, but I don't do it with most of them because this knife is pretty thin. You do need a very thin tool to do this. If you have a thick tool and you try to pull this bezel, you will bend it in a way that it's going to look very ugly when you put it back on there. One more thing, when you're doing this, try to find good tools. That's very important. If you don't have good tools, the repair gets much harder. With good tools, every repair can be easy. And again, like I repeat in most of my videos, make the computer positioned in a way that is comfortable for you, not for the computer. I've seen people do this while the computer is standing up like that, and that's not the way you want to do it. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to clean out the bezel, put new glue on it. Sometimes these black pieces, they go off very easy, but sometimes the side adhesive is hard to take off. In that case, I usually heat it up. Put the new screen here. You can reuse this adhesive, it's not good. After you peel it off, since it's old already, it probably won't hold as well, and you might have a problem with the bezel coming off. The black piece of the tape comes off very easily. You can slide under. And just peel it off. It's very easy to peel it off. These are also very easy to peel off if you didn't rip them completely while trying to remove the bezel. Just if it doesn't come off easy, again, just heat it up a little bit with the heat gun and it will come off very easy. For some reason, the 13-inch, like I said before, 13-inch bezel is much easier to do, to clean up than the 11-inch bezel. They have the same glue on it. It's made in the same way. I really don't know why. But it is what it is. Do your best to clean it up as much as you can. Even if you leave some pieces on there, it still will be flat and gluing properly and be behind those black rubber gaskets. So you don't have to worry about that. It's gonna look just fine. Just try not to bend the bezel. If anybody is wondering how much heat I'm applying, I'm using the heat gun on the second speed. just a regular heat gun. I'm not using a rework station or anything. Regular heat gun is all you need to actually do this. If you don't have a heat gun, you can do it with a hair dryer. Now, with the hair dryer, since the hair dryer doesn't have as much power and wattage as these industrial heat guns, then you might need a little bit more time to heat it up. The tape I use, it says here 3M 200 MP. It's proven to be pretty good. It holds these bezels pretty well. I haven't had much problem with it. Sometimes it happens that it peels off due to a lot of heat. I've had customers from warm areas, and it happens that it peels off and the bezel appears to be coming off a little bit. What I told them is to use a heat gun if they have. If not, then hair dryer, heat up the bezel and press it down gently and hold it like that. I keep pressing down the sides for a few minutes until the adhesive settles, because when you heat it up it kind of melts a little bit and then settles much better. You can do that as soon as you put the bezel in as well, but it doesn't need to mean that something like that won't happen eventually. Make sure the bezel doesn't have any dust or any dirt on it, because if that's the case, this adhesive won't stick nicely. Okay, the bezel is done. Okay, so now we need to remove the screen. The bottom bracket has 5 screws. It's a metal bracket that holds the whole screen, and there are 2 screws holding the inverter board, or the actual main board of the polarizer, which is the screen. Those 2 black screws you need to remove also, so that you can actually remove the screen from the computer. Don't lose these screws. These screws are kind of specifically short to fit in the socket properly, and if you lose them and you don't have anywhere to screw them back in, I mean any screws to screw back in into this bezel, the frame, then the backlight will bleed from the bottom. The purpose of this little frame is to hold the polarizer on the bottom and for the backlight not to bleed. Okay, so here comes the harder part. I'm gonna zoom this in so you can see what I'm doing, hopefully as much as possible. Let's see if my camera focuses well. Okay, if you see this little piece of tape here, you need to clean that off. That piece of tape is holding one little cable, which is a backlight cable, essentially a very important cable because it lights up your screen. Take a pair of tweezers and bend this. You see that backlight cable. There is a little latch right here. Pick it up and then pull the cable out like that. This here is another cable, which is your screen cable, the LVDS cable. It has a big metal latch over it. Unplug it, and then now what you do, you grab this and you pull up. You will hear it snap, and that means that this cable came out. This is how you remove it. Now it's going to be a little bit harder for me to show you how to put it back in, but I'll do my best. Now we're going to remove the screen. Again, computer in the way how you're comfortable, not how the computer is comfortable. Use the low speed on your heat gun. You don't want to overheat this thing. The layers that it has under it are not supposed to be touched, not supposed to be taken out. You can end up damaging something and then having a lot of blemishes. You can see your fingerprints. These layers, even if you touch them, they will leave a mark. So try not to do anything to them. Sometimes people also hit so hard the screens that it damages the backlight layer and it leaves a blemish or a crack on the backlight plastic. This can be replaced. It's very hard to replace. If you try to replace that, you might end up messing everything up. So in that case, people usually replace the whole screen assembly, which ends up being a little bit more than what they were hoping for, and not worth the repair. If you can see how I'm doing it, I'm just heating it up slightly and lifting the polarizer. I'm not touching the inner layers. I'm separating the polarizer from with this little prior from the inner layers, because I don't want them to be scratched. And don't heat up too much, because if you heat up too much, you will melt this inner sheet. And these reflective sheets are called diffusers. What they do is put out proper picture. They filter the picture, and they also act like a heat protectant for the backlight layer, so you don't have burn marks on your polarizer after some time. This is the important part. A lot of people try to snip this out. What I do, I hold it like this, and I heat up this side. After a couple of seconds, I start lifting a little by little. Now expect this screen was broken on that side, so I am expecting to see some pieces of the polarizer still there, which I will need to peel off, which is good for you to learn how. But this is the way how you actually leave the polarizer if it's not cracked on the left side without having to peel that off. Now of course I do have this because the person who broke it dropped something on this side and cracked that. Take this off from the old polarizer. Use this prior that you used to take the bezel off. Take it off nicely, heat it up a little bit, take it off nicely, because this is a piece that you will need. That's the little bracket that holds the new polarizer on the bottom. Clean it up from the old glue. Now, you don't move your computer at all. You need to secure the back layers. Cut a small piece of tape. It moved a little bit to the left. If that happens, just pull them a little slightly, gently to the back. Cut a piece of tape and put it on the edge of this reflective sheet on the top and the bottom. You don't need to remove the glue, the tape, sorry, that was there before. This tape is very helpful and very good to use again, because the heat made it reusable, and you can make a mess by putting another one and peeling this one off. Just make sure there is no chips of the screen. Take a look at it with the magnifying glass or with your eyes if you see well. Now, here's what we're going to do with this side, because as you can see, this side has a little bit of a polarizer left on there, because that's where it was cracked. When it comes to that, it's very hard to remove without cracking it. So what I do, I have a very thin spudger, metal spudger, which I use for that. I slide in sideways and I keep going up. If this happens to you, you will need to do this. If you need to do this, you're very close to damaging your inner layers. Now this thing is just wide enough for me not to touch the reflective sheets, and it's perfect for that. If you don't have something, then you have to be very, very careful while removing these little chips of the old polarizer. So you don't scratch these inner layers. You also need some canned air, or if you have a compressor, even better, to clean off the little shards that are all over the place after you take these off, and also any dust specks that might have flown on there. Okay. Make sure there are no shards left, and then put the last piece of tape in this corner to hold down the reflective sheet. What we're going to do now is we're going to plug in the screen and test it. Now here's where the trouble comes. You need to plug in these cables the way how they were plugged in before. It's next to impossible if you're doing it for the first time, and please be careful, and also good luck. Now the cable, the way how it's folded here, it needs to go into the polarizer. What I do, I unhook this latch. Don't touch this. If you touch it, you'll damage it. I'll try to zoom in a little more so you might see what I'm doing. What I do is I grab the cable from the back. It has a little plastic piece that helps you hold it behind it and push it in. Now it's gonna be very hard for you to actually see this. What I do, I put this cable in here like this and I slide it in. And I put the latch on top of it. Like that, it goes in. The trick with the LVDS cable now, since you can't bend this back that much, the trick with the LVDS cable is to grab behind it under the latch and position it in a way that the polarizer, this little board lays right on top of it. It will align itself, don't worry. When it does, I do need to do it like this because I can't really see when it's bent. When it aligns itself, what you do is you push down. When you push down, the board snaps the connector back in. Make sure both connectors are in as they are. I know you probably didn't see everything what I did, but there is literally no way of me doing it any better right now. I would need like an extra camera or even a microscope with a camera or something to show you how this works. Try to plug these cables in without touching these and you should be good. Now we're gonna put this up and test it. Make sure that the backlight is even, that all the backlight, the whole backlight strip lights up. Sorry, let me zoom out. That you see everything is good. I'm gonna shut it off. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna put this metal bracket back on. And we're gonna screw the bracket back on. Make sure the bracket is screwed on tightly and straight. That it's not crooked or sticking out or uneven or even bent. If it's bent, you're gonna have that backlight bleeding that I spoke about earlier, and you're not gonna like that. A lot of people don't. Now there is a trick. This is the hardest part is done, but you're almost done. But there is a trick when you have to put this screen back up, so you align it properly, and you don't have like a crooked sideways image inside because of the polarizer not being glued properly. Never glue this thing to the polarizer first. Always put it back up on there and then glue, and then put the tape on it, and then you will put the polarizer so it sits and settles there. Never do it because you will never be able to put it evenly inside. Nobody will do it properly like that. what you have to do is, first of all, I cleaned it, but there is dust here, so make a little bit more air. Don't blow, so you don't spin on it. Just do some here, and try to put it evenly in there. Hey, I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. So now we're gonna turn it back on. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna boot it into my operating system so I test everything properly. Make sure the colors are okay, the backlight is okay. This user has a password, and I encourage my customers to send the computer with the password on purpose for their own personal protection and data protection, because I don't need or want to see anybody's data. A lot of times I will ask people to actually keep the hard drive if they know how to take it out, in case any of you wants to send me a computer to fix. That's how I take care of the security part, at least. I never log in to anybody's computer to actually test the screen. That's not needed. On Macs, one good thing is that you can always use another hard drive to boot into, because all of them work almost the same as long as they support the operating system. So main thing you need to test here after you're done, I test the camera, because when you do this repair you're messing with the camera and with the camera cable. If the camera works, you're good. You see me there? I don't. Backlight needs to go up and down, and there is a setting in display settings that changes the different types of colors on the LCD. Color LCD is default. Sometimes when you replace the screen it will have a slightly blue tint. And that's pretty much it. The only thing left is to put the bezel on. I'm going to clean up this bezel a little bit more on the outside before I put it on, but the only thing you need to do is put the bezel back on, and that's pretty much it. The bezel fits in perfectly, so you don't have to worry about it sticking out or being crooked. And also, if you don't want to do this, you need help with this, or you have any questions, just ask me. I'll do my best to answer whenever I can, and to help anybody. If you want me to fix your computer, you can always try to contact me directly. I'll let you know the price and the turnaround, how it works, and do my best to help you out. Thanks for watching.